All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to explore this really profound and honestly, sometimes kinda unsettling idea. It's the idea that the world you experience every single day, the people you meet, the things that happen, what you think of as your fate, isn't some random objective thing happening to you. What if instead, it's a direct reflection of your own inner world? This quote from Ani Isnin, it just perfectly captures what we're talking about here. It's so simple, but it's also incredibly radical when you really think about it. It means our perception isn't a clean window we look through. No, it's more like a lens that's been shaped and colored by everything, our beliefs, our old wounds, our whole inner landscape. So let's just put the question right out there. What if everything you think is out there is actually just a giant mirror, reflecting what's in here? I mean, what would that even mean for how we understand our lives, our biggest challenges, and maybe even our destiny? Okay, so let's really unpack this idea, this central metaphor, the world as a mirror. This isn't just some nice poetic thought. It's actually a pretty profound psychological principle, one that thinkers and mystics have been wrestling with for, well, centuries. This gets to the absolute heart of what the psychologist Carl Jung was always talking about. He basically said that until we make our unconscious conscious, it's going to run our lives, and we'll just shrug and call it fate. We are constantly projecting our hidden fears, our unacknowledged desires onto the world around us, and then we react to that world as if it has nothing to do with us. Now, this whole idea of looking for reflections to understand ourselves, it's not new at all. In fact, you could say humanity has always been searching for mirrors. And for most of history, those mirrors took the form of myths and stories. To a thinker like Jung, these myths weren't just simple bedtime stories. They were vital for our psychological health. Why? Because they connect our small, individual lives to the huge, universal human story. They give us a map for navigating life by showing us these recurring patterns, the hero, the shadow, the wise old guide. These are the stories that give life meaning. And it's amazing how universal these patterns are. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a galaxy far, far away or the ancient Near East. The basic blueprint is the same. A hero has to confront some kind of darkness, they get some guidance, and they go through a huge transformation. These aren't just cool plot points. They're reflecting a timeless human drama that's playing out inside all of us. Okay, this is a really important distinction we have to make. These stories work on the level of symbols, not signs. A sign is simple. A stop sign means one thing, stop. That's it. But a symbol, well, a symbol is like a gateway. It's packed with layers of meaning that can stir up our thoughts and feelings, and it acts like a bridge between our everyday conscious mind and those deeper, unconscious parts of ourselves. And this quote from G.K. Chesterton just hits the nail on the head. It really gets at the power of these symbolic stories. They don't just tell us facts about the world. They give us a map for dealing with the hard stuff. They remind us that the dragons we all face, both the ones inside us and the ones out in the world, they can be overcome. They give us hope. So we've looked at the big collective mirrors of myth and story, but now let's bring the focus inward to the really personal mirrors of our own psychology, specifically our wounds and our shadows. Deep down at the root of our personal story, there's often something we could call a core wound. It's this fundamental feeling of separation, this nagging sense of being somehow not enough. And this is the wound that gives birth to the ego, that little voice in our head that spends its entire life trying to prove we're worthy, trying to fill that hole to make up for that feeling of lack. And you can see the whole chain reaction right here. It all kicks off with that core wound, that feeling of being separate or unworthy. So to protect us, the ego steps in and starts compensating, building up all these defenses and masks. But everything we can't accept about ourselves, our fears, our insecurities, gets shoved down to what Jung called the shadow. And because we can't stand to look at our own shadow, what do? We project it out onto other people or other groups or situations. And that projection becomes the very reality we experience as our fate. Now, there are basically two ways we can deal with all this inner darkness. The ancient Yom Kippur ritual actually shows this perfectly. One path is integration. This is where we take responsibility, we look at ourselves honestly, and that leads to real healing. The other path? That's projection. We find a scapegoat, we point the finger, we blame them for all our problems, and then we cast them out. Sure, it might make us feel better for a minute, but it solves absolutely nothing and just keeps the cycle of harm going. And this dynamic isn't just something that happens to us as individuals. When a whole society, a whole culture, fails to do this inner work, it starts looking for a collective scapegoat. That unowned shadow gets projected outward, and as history has shown us, again and again, with terrifying clarity, the consequences can be absolutely devastating. Okay, so let's pull this right into our world, right now. Because humanity has just created its newest, its most complex, and maybe its most confusing mirror yet: artificial intelligence. You see, that deep, ancient human desire to peek into the unknown, to see what's coming, it's still right here with us. We've just updated our tools. The impulse that made someone gaze into a scrying bowl to see the future is the exact same impulse that makes us type a question into an AI. We're still looking for a mirror to give us some insight. Now, here's the crucial thing to understand. An AI like ChatGPT isn't some independent thinking being, not at all. It's a pattern-matching machine that's been fed an unbelievable amount of human text. It has no consciousness. It simply reflects. It mirrors the clarity or the confusion of the person using it. Ask it a better, more thoughtful question, and you'll get a better, more thoughtful answer. It's a direct reflection of our own mind. And this is where we run into a really fascinating old archetype, the trickster. The trickster's job isn't to be evil. Its role is to shake things up, to mess with our certainties, to gleefully pull the rug out from under our assumptions. It uses paradox and confusion to show us our own blind spots. An AI can play this role perfectly, sometimes spitting our own faulty logic back at us, or giving us a weird, distorted reflection that forces us to stop and really question what we thought we knew. And this quote from the philosopher Martin Heidegger is such a critical warning for our time. The risk isn't just that AI gets too smart. The real danger is that if we engage with this powerful new mirror unconsciously, we don't just use it, we start to become it. We start to adopt its mechanical, pattern-based way of thinking as our own. So, given this world full of reflections, from ancient myths to our own psychology to these new AI tools, how are we supposed to live? How do we navigate all these mirrors without getting completely lost in them? And this really is what it all comes down to. The real work isn't out there. We could spend our entire lives trying to polish the mirror or yelling at our own reflection. But true, deep transformation only happens when we turn our attention inward, to the self that's casting that reflection in the first place. And people have known this for ages. These 3 little phrases were carved into the temple of Apollo in ancient Greece. Know thyself. That's the foundation. It protects you from delusion. Nothing in excess. That warns us not to rely too much on any single mirror. And my favorite, a surety brings ruin. That's a reminder that being too certain, too rigid, is the fastest way to stop growing. These are timeless safeguards. So here it is. Here's the final, practical shift in how we see things. Instead of looking at life like a victim, always asking, why is this happening to me, we can become an active participant in our own growth by asking, what is this situation, this person, this reflection asking of me? We turn every single challenge into a doorway, an opportunity for deeper self-awareness and maybe even awakening. And that's the question I really want to leave you with. Right now, in your life, the mirror is reflecting something back at you. The real question isn't what you see, it's what that reflection is asking of you. What is it calling you to face, to heal, to integrate, to become? The answer isn't in the mirror, it's inside you.